Think about it. Think about it.
And welcome to High School Basketball Weekly. Tim Murray once again alongside of Rick Bua bringing you a recap of tournament action in high school basketball as the state tournament and Western Mass tournament we just concluded, the state tournament now underway. And Rick, it was a great weekend of a great weekend of high school basketball action, and Berkshire County acquitted themselves tremendously in the Western Mass tournament.
Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about, Tim. Not that there were that many games that were actually played, but there was a lot going on. For example, we'll talk about McCann, and they were in the state vocational tournament. Also, we've got a lot to talk about with the Western Mass finals that were just held this past weekend. And of course, the MIAA tournament has kicked off and is underway, so there's a lot to talk about. And yeah, you're right. Early on in the MIAA tournament, the Western Mass teams, the Berkshire County teams, have fared very, very well as expected.
They certainly did, and we're going to jump into the Western Mass tournament. I think it went for the first time in the format that it was arranged, Rick, wonderfully. Take a look at the girls' Class C Western Mass, Class B Western Mass tournament, and there you go in Class B. You saw that lineup of teams, really a nice field of teams that were put together by the Pioneer Valley, who organized it. And they used the state rankings, the MIA state rankings, to rank and seed the teams in this for all the tournaments in Western Massachusetts. And there you see the final, Wahconah. They came out on top with a handy victory over South Hadley. And this is a tough Wahconah team for sure, Rick.
Yeah, they beat South Hadley. You can see the score on the right-hand side there in the final, 56-33. 4 Lady Warriors, Tim, were in double figures. Olivia Gambaroni with 17, Olivia Mason with 14, Emma Belcher with 13, and Eva Eberwein with 10. And they continue, Tim, to play well and win without Grace Wakington, their leading scorer, who was out, as you remember, for a period of time.
Right.
Came back for a short period of time. Not sure what's happened to Grace. I'm assuming she's re-injured herself and is out. But I believe her picture was in the most recent Springfield Republican Mass Live photo of the championship photo they took over that win. So that's a nice convincing win against a very good South Hadley team.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a team that's going to be, they obviously reckoned with in the state tournament. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But kudos to the Lady Warriors of Wahconah. They finished the Class B Western Mass tournament as champions with a very convincing victory over a very good South Hadley squad. Going to the girls' Class C Western Mass tournament, there you see the seeds there. Mount Greylock and McCann were seeded 7 and 8 there. Drury in the 3 spot, Taconic in the 2 spot, and you see the results of that tournament. Taconic ultimately coming away with the title with a pretty convincing victory over Springfield ICS. But this was a good field as well, Rick.
Yeah, it was a very good field. Springfield ICS, a very, very solid team. That was a toss-up between them and Taconic, that's for sure. And as we mentioned on last week's program, Tim, the boys A, B, C, and D, and the girls A, B, C, and D in Western Mass, the 1 and 2 seeds all faced off each other on Saturday. So again, kudos, very good job with the Pioneer Valley Athletic Conference in seeding these teams. And it all comes out at the end. The best teams, not always, but this particular time, I really do believe the best 2 teams played both on the boys and girls circuits.
Yeah, and you know, again, recapping the 2-3 game Taconic-Drury, a very competitive game between those 2 teams, Rick. Taconic, of course, a very solid squad, but Drury gave them all they could handle in that 2-3 matchup for sure. And I think that gives them a nice impetus going into the state tournament, which of course we'll talk about again in just a moment. But congratulations to the Taconic Braves. They won and are the Western Mass Class C champions for the 2021-2022 basketball season. Jumping down to girls Class D Western Mass tournament, and along what you just said, Rick, 1 and 2 seeds holding court, holding their spots throughout this tournament. But it was pretty much Hoosick Valley's tournament to lose, especially after that huge upset, I think, between the 6 seed Mount Everett and the 3 seed Munson.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest upset of the whole tournament on the girls' side. Mount Everett really played really well and took down a team that had beaten Hoosick Valley. So, on any given night, things can happen on boys and girls' side. So,
right.
But again, I still think in Class D, the best 2 teams of those 8 seeds that you see there on the bottom were the best 2 that faced off. And I would say Hoosick Valley, yes, they were heavily favored. And they took care of business as they have been lately. They've got balanced scoring, and Rick Polari, the coach at Lee, would not make up any excuses. Trust me on that. But he did play without his leading scorer, and that's Emma Polari. But would it have changed the outcome? I don't think so, Tim. I know you were there to do the game,
right?
But Lee's program is very good. They were the first team to knock off East Hampton this year when the girls were undefeated, and they had a great season. Very worthy opponent for the Hurricanes.
No question about it. And I'll tell you, Rick, this is a much improved team in Lee. The program is on the upswing. As you said, Rick Polari, a fine coach, and he's got a team on the upswing. I was disappointed, when I got there on Saturday and learned that Emma Polari was not going to play, because I figured that this was going to be a real competitive contest, and it still was for the first half, but tough to outgun the Hurricanes without Emma there. And again, not making any excuses. It was a well-deserved victory for the Lady Hurricanes, and so they finished up as the Class D Western Mass champions for the 21-22 season. So, but now skipping ahead here a little bit now, Rick, let's take a look at the state tournament. That's underway now, and again, for Berkshire County, it's primarily a D5 tournament. In the D4 girls you see there, Wauconah Warriors, they are the number 2 statewide seed. You see South Hadley, East Hampton, and then of course Monument Mountain, another team that's been vastly improved in D4, Rick.
Yeah, Wauconah is very worthy of that number 2, that's for sure. They're going to be hosting number 31 Burncoat in the round of 32. Monument Mountain is going to be at Cohasset, so they'll be on the road. Cohasset is number 16. So you never know. And that cathedral, ladies and gentlemen, please remember there's no longer Cathedral High School in Springfield. That's
right.
Pope Francis now. I'm not sure where Cathedral is located, but it's not the Springfield school. The other ones, as you should see in bold lettering, are Berkshire County teams and South Haddon, East Hampton, Western Mass teams. Right,
and you look at that D5 girls lineup, Rick. Hoosick Valley got the 1 seed. They will maintain that 1 seed. They'll be at home for as long as they're in the tournament. Springfield ICS, we talked about them. They won, of course, the Class C. I'm sorry, they played in the finals of the Class C tournament against Taconic. And then right there, you got Taconic, the 5 seed, the very much improved Lee Wildcats, and Drury, 6 and 7 there. This is a nice field. I think we're going to see a lot of good games on the D5 side, Rick.
Boy, you talk about getting respect. The MIAA has really respected the Western Mass teams and the Berkshire County teams in particular. That's why on this program, Tim, we often talk about some of the coaches in the Pioneer Valley that now are starting now with a new format. They're starting to play each other. Before, they had to schedule independent games by coming up to Berkshire County to play some of the schools just on the talent and the physicality of girls and boys basketball. So that is wonderful to have Hoosick Valley number 1 out of I don't know how many schools, Tim, all in all, how many are in it, but I can tell you that's quite an honor to be number 1 in the whole state of Massachusetts.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we've got a situation there where you've got Western Mass team so well represented, Rick, in terms of the quality of play, both on the boys and girls side, that's for sure. Just switching gears for a minute before we talk about the state tournament in terms of the games that are lined up here. The Western Mass boys tournaments are also held, and of course we were there to cover two Western Mass finals, just kicking off with the boys Class B Western Mass tournament. Taconic won that one. Rick, you see the teams that were on that side of it, and they had all they could handle with Springfield ICS.
Yes, again, I know I keep repeating myself, but it's the first year that Springfield International Charter School has gone under that name. They're previously known as Sabas, a very, very strong charter school in Springfield, one of the oldest charter schools in Springfield, and they're the team that we used to talk about all the time, Tim, on this program about playing larger schools and sometimes getting in the Western Mass tournament with a sub-500 record, but had the Walker points at that time.
Right.
So they're a very good opponent, and Taconic did take them out 46-43. So as good as Taconic's been, and they've had an incredible season so far, and I think their best is yet to come. Winning that in Division III was really great for them, and I think it's just going to make them even stronger when they go back down to Division V, where they are now scheduled to play the MIA tournament.
Right, except for, it's interesting, you look at this, we'll talk about it on the state side. Other than Taconic, the rest of the teams in the boys Class B Western Mass tournament will play in the state Division IV tournament, Rick, and that's quite a lineup of teams, no question about it. It's just a great lineup of teams, and you see just the quality of Western Mass basketball in the teams that are in the rankings at that point. So it speaks just volumes about Western Mass basketball. Yeah. Games that we covered, Rick, at MCLA, and I just want to take a moment to compliment the folks up at MCLA, Jeff Polari. Dave Reset was the site manager, the athletic director for Drury. They did a fabulous job. It was a great atmosphere on Saturday afternoon, and you see the two finals that were played at MCLA in the Class C Western Mass tournament. Drury taking on Paulo Freire, and in the Class D, Bay State at Hoosick Valley. We covered those games, and they're going to be shown right here on Channel 1302 Northern Berkshire Community Television. Just check your listings for those. But in the Class C Western Mass tournament, Rick, all I can say is Drury ran into a shooting buzzsaw with Paulo Freire and dropped at 72-64. But I tell you, the score doesn't belie how that game actually played out. Paulo Freire was on fire in the first half, and at one point in the third quarter, they had Drury by 21. But as we know, Drury never gives up, and they made a real game of this, Rick. Yeah, and from what I understand, Tim, Drury got off to a slow start. I believe they jumped out to a 9-0 lead like right away. And I want to say they never recovered, but they really did. And you had just mentioned that about their comeback. And except for that first few minutes of that ball game where Drury started slowly and they were shooting lights out, Paulo Freire, it was a ball game. And Paulo Freire and Drury, you could have flipped them 2 and 3, gone the other way, right? Just based upon Paulo playing in the Valley Wheel League with the larger Springfield schools like Longmeadow, Chicopee, and Holyoke, some of those teams. So they don't have the record Drury had, but they only played the 1s and 2s, maybe a couple of 3s, and they're in 5. So that was going to make them very strong. So hey, who knows? Coach Russell would probably love to get them again. Absolutely. I mean, the story of the game really was Paulo Freire hitting 14 three-pointers, and I'll tell you, some of them were from NBA range. Just Brian Jimenez for Paulo Freire, a very good guard and great range three-point, and that really was the difference. Louis Gelati had 27 points in that one, Rick, and in that second half he was played like a man possessed, and they had Paulo Freire had no answer for him, and it was, I'll tell you, It was a real competitive game. Hats off to Paulo Freire. They earned the victory, no question about it. But Drury was right there and showed they can play with anybody in Division 5. And of course, we'll see that as we go forward in the state tournament that's now getting underway. In the Class D Western Mass tournament, kind of an upset there. Another number 2 seed. Congratulations to Hoosick Valley. They knocked off Bay State. The third time was the charm for the Hurricanes, as they had played Bay State twice earlier in the season, Rick, and came up on the short end. But Coach Robinson had his squad prepared, and they came away with the victory.
Well, it's very difficult unless you're really superior, Tim, to beat a team 3 times in the same season. And in this particular case, logically, they're not that superior. So they got the best of Hoosick up in Cheshire. Hoosick Valley, if you remember, went down and played much better, stayed right in there and lost 55-50. And like you said, the third time's the charm. And if you give Coach Robinson some time to look at game film and change some plans, that's a spell victory right there. And they got balanced scoring, Tim, too. I mean, they got balanced scoring from Carson Meswar led the way with 23, and Joey McGovern and had 13. Frank Field and Caleb Harrington with 10. And we've said this all along. When you're going to get Field, you're going to get Carson with double figures, close to 20 sometimes. You get Joey McGovern, Caleb Harrington, and Sean Kastner added 8 points. So there's your win right there. And if you go back to the Drury game, if you told me that Louis Gelati scored 27 and Ben Moulton and Tim Brazzo each scored double figures, you would have thought that was a victory there too. So a little surprising there. But you got to tip your hats off to Coach Robinson and his kids and the preparation for the Bay State game. And
the feel-good part of that game, Rick, was as the third quarter was ending and Bay State was mounting a comeback. They'd been down considerably, 15, 16, 17 points in that third quarter, but they were starting to make a run. And right at the end of the third quarter, Frank Field, the outstanding sophomore for Hoosick Valley, was injured, never came back into the game, and Coach Robinson turned to his bench and went with senior Mikey White. Mikey White scored 5 points in that fourth quarter, made a couple of great passes, had some big rebounds, and the senior just off the bench just gave so much to Hoosick Valley, stemmed the tide, and was a big part of that victory. Now, it's unknown, right, as of today, the taping of this show, we don't know the status of Frank Field going forward in the tournament. It's really uncertain at this point. Of course, it'd be a huge loss if he's unable to play for Hoosick Valley, Rick.
Yeah, he plays like a senior. I'll put it to you as clear as that. I wish I got to see him live last year as a ninth grader. Got to see some games on YouTube and taped, and he looked outstanding. And he's strong. He plays much bigger than what he is too. Just an athletic kid, but he's got that mindset. He's got that leadership mindset already as a 10th grader. So I hope things are going well with Frank, and I hope he returns for the tournament.
And Rick, before we jump over to the state tournaments, we want to just talk about the girls, McCann Tech girls and Mount Greylock. Of course, they finished out their season now, and except for Greylock being now in the state tournament, but McCann Tech played Greylock in their final game of the regular season.
Yeah, one of McCann's biggest wins this year by far was their senior night that I got a chance to cover, and they won that game. They upset John Jacoby's Lady Mounties, and Mount Greylock probably said, hey, we can't wait to get McCann back here. And in the last regular season game of the year over in the Mounties gym, Mount Greylock prevailed 41-28. Macy Tatro and Hannah Boyersford led the way with 8 points for the Hornets, which ended their season. It just wasn't meant to be this year, but the good news is they do have Eddie Heyer coming back, and she's a good guard. She's a great ball handler. Maybe she can just start scoring a little bit more next year. We'll have to see, but their two bigs are back, Boyersford and Macy Tatro, and Coach Kathy Bode can build around that. And as far as John Jacoby's team, as you said, they played a lot better in that game than they did down at McCann, that's for sure. Freshman Charlotte Cooney had 14, and point guard sophomore Abby Scalaba had 10. And then they also played a preliminary game, Tim, and won against Salem Academy, 65-34 with Cooney scoring 16 and Jackie Brannon 10. So they're going on. So you know what? They may not have hit 500, but they got a seed in the Western Mass tournament. I'm sorry, the Massachusetts tournament, and they're still in it.
Yes, they are. And let's talk about the MIA. Go back now to the MIA tournament, and let's look at the girls' action. All right, let's start with the boys' action here. Of course, Friday night at Drury. Drury has a game on Friday night, right, Rick?
Yes.
Looking at them, and you're going to be there to cover it for Northern Berkshire Community Television. They host
tomorrow night, Friday, the 4th, Northern Berkshire Community Television will be at Drury, and we'll be covering the game between the Blue Devils and Air Shirley, who won last night in the preliminary round. So we're in the round of 32 right now, and the winner goes on, and the loser goes home. Simple as that, but we'll be there.
And also on the boys' side, Mount Greylock is going to have a home game against Calvary Chapel Academy. Greylock is the 11th seed on the boys' side. Calvary Chapel is the 22 seed on the boys' side. So you see Mount Greylock, they will get a home game and they will host Calvary Chapel Academy in the round, what we call the round of 32. This is now, we're down to the round of 32. And again, Rick, Western Mass did really well in the preliminary round of both the boys and the girls tournament.
Yeah, just about everybody's still in it. So that's great. I mean, only McCann was beaten, and we can talk about that in a minute. But a great showing by the Berkshire County teams and the Western Mass teams as generals.
Right, and as you can see, Rick, just so our viewers know this, when you're looking at now the D5 boys, Drury as the number 3 seed, they will play at home as long as they keep winning until the final four, so to speak. And if the seed's held, they would play Bay State Academy, the number 2 seed, in a Final Four game, which would be at a neutral site. So by virtue of they getting the 3 seed, the 1 through 4 teams will play. For example, if Hoosick Valley gets to the final 8, they will play on the road. They will play at Paulo Freire, who is the 4 seed in the tournament. So you just got to keep watching the Blue Devils there in a situation where they're going to have home court until they get to the Final Four, if they make it that far, which is great for the Blue Devils, right?
Yeah, that's a tremendous seed. Being ranked in Division 5, 3rd in the state of Massachusetts amongst almost 70 schools.
Right.
And probably 40 participating in the tournament. So it all pays off. The regular season pays off. All the hard work pays off. And Drury, as you said, Tim, will be home. And I just want to let everybody to know, our viewers too, that you heard Tim talk about Paulo Freire beating Drury in the Western Mass finals up at the college last weekend. And the reason why Paulo is ranked seated just below Drury is because the seedings came out after the 20th ball game. And that was the 21st ball game that was played on Saturday in the finals.
Right.
So that's why Hoosick Valley didn't move up. That's why Drury didn't move down. That's why Paulo didn't move up. That's why Bay State didn't move down. So as simple as that.
Right. The Western Mass Championships in all divisions, Rick, absolutely had no impact on the rankings. They were not considered in the rankings whatsoever. Those rankings closed out before those championship games were played. They are Western Mass Championship games, but have nothing to do with this state tournament. It gets a little bit confusing at times, I know. We try to simplify as much as we can. But now we're in state tournament action, and as you indicated, the Drury boys will be home on Friday night, so they host that Air Shirley team in the D5 boys tournament. Hoosick Valley will also have a home game as they host another Western Mass team, Smith Academy, in the round of 32. Rick.
Yeah, that Smith Academy is a 28 seed. Another Western Mass team. Good matchup. Excuse me, good matchup for Coach Robinson's Hurricanes. I think playing in Cheshire, and with or without Frank Field, I think as long as they play their type of basketball, they'll have a good outcome on Friday night.
Yeah, they're playing better basketball, no question about it. They've really come around. He's getting, outstanding guard play by Carson Meswar, which was to be expected. He's an outstanding senior guard for Hoosick Valley, and he's getting some very, very good, timely outside shooting by Joey McGovern, the sophomore, who's had a great Western Mass tournament, all three games that he played in, and he's really come on for the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes. So we'll have to wait and see where they are, but they will have a home game as well on Friday night. So that's a game that we want to look at. On the girls' side, Rick, looking at the girls' tournament, the MIA girls' tournament, the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes, we talked about it. On the D5 side, you see those Berkshire County teams there, Hoosick Valley with the 1 seed, and they will get a home game. They're going to play also Friday night at 5 o'clock. They're actually going to play before the boys at Hoosick Valley. They play Mount Everett, who had that big upset victory over Munson in the Western Mass tournament. So Hoosick Valley, they're in the 1 seed. They're going to be at home until the Final Four if they keep winning as well, Rick.
Yeah, I think they are the odds-on favorite to be in the finals for the state championship game. And I'm sure Coach Holly McGovern will not even bring that up in her locker room with her girls. But the way we do our program, Tim, we can talk a little bit about it. And you got to give kudos where they're deserved. And Hoosick Valley's had an incredible season. They did have that one loss that was unexpected on the road, but things happen to kids on certain nights. But sometimes getting a loss out of the way late in the season is a good thing, and I think it was a good thing for them. And I think they're on a real roll right now. They're playing strong basketball, and Mount Everett's got to come up, and it's at least a team they know somewhat.
Right. Now I'm going to make an observation here, Rick. I think a team that could be the surprise team, the two surprise teams, so to speak, in this bracket could be Lee or Drury. I think they've got a good draw here in that they avoid Taconic. They jump out of Taconic, and they're on the other side of the bracket playing the 2 and 3 seeds. And I think that they can play with the 2-3 seeds in the Western Mass, in the state tournament.
Yeah, there really isn't much to choose between the Lee Wildcats and the Drury Blue Devils, Tim. One's a 6 seed, one's a 7 seed. They played once this year. They would have played twice if the Berkshire County League was still intact, but they played once up at the Bucky Bullet Gym, and it was a game that Drury pulled away very, very late and took down the Wildcats in a real good ball game. And that was a real big win for them because that's a good Lee team.
Right.
And you're right. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I like the draw. I like the draw for the Drury girls. I really do. They were in that 2-3 side of the bracket at number 7 as well as Lee. And I think, that Coach Ian Downey feels he can play with Springfield ICS. You know, they played them once. They got beat by, they got beat by Springfield ICS, but he feels he can play with them.
They played much better against Springfield ICS down there in Springfield. And they gave Taconic a battle, as you said earlier, Tim, about a week and a half ago down in Pittsfield. In a game that Drury started slowly, but actually led by a point at halftime and held Aaliyah Phillips to no points in the first half. Now, she did light it up and score her 1,000th point in the second half to give her team that win. But what Coach Ian Downey's team needs, and he knows it, and all the Drury Blue Devil followers know it, is got to get a little bit of scoring other than Kayla McGrath. So they need somebody to step up, and he definitely has some kids that can do that. And if they can do that, then they're going to go a long way in this tournament.
Absolutely, and the tournament is going to be in full swing here this week and into next week, and we're going to be there to cover as best we can on Northern Berkshire Community Television. And of course, you can tune in next week on High School Basketball Weekly, and we'll have a recap of the round of 32, as well as some of the results in the round of 16 in the state division MIAA tournament. That's going to do it for this week. I'm Tim Morey alongside Rick Bullis saying thank you for watching High School Basketball Weekly, and we'll see you next week.